everyone, it's Friday evening. It's about 3 o'clock. I just came in and checked the stock price and it was like $17.98, $18. And I finally decided to make up my mind on exactly what to do. I had a friend call me earlier today and his gas line was froze up. He has natural gas and it was froze up, and he asked me if I would come help him fix it, and I did. And I was like, I got to be back by 3 o'clock, man. I got to be back by 3 o'clock. Anyway, we were able to get it taken care of, and I was able to fix it for him. And so, as soon as I got back, I'm like, okay, how am I going to handle this trade? Because I've been rolling it around in my brain basically all week. I considered several things. I considered buying some puts. I considered selling some puts, and I decided on just selling some puts. It's a directional trade without any downside protection. Now I'm going to walk you through my thought process after I stand up and start going over everything. It's a risky trade, but it's not as risky as it looks unless the stock just gets smashed and, let's say, goes back to like 16. Okay, it's just not that bad of a trade. It is risky though, and I'm bullish on SoFi, so we'll see how it works out next week, and we'll go from there. Anyway, let's jump right into it. Okay, let me walk you through my thought process, and hopefully this will make sense. It makes perfect sense to me after doing it, but some of you might be like, you're crazy. But anyway, let's remember what I have. I have all of these long calls and leaps. I even have two short-term, I know I'm holding the camera around, I have two short-term $14 March calls. I guess I should go over that. I updated this today. Here's what I'm up. I'm up 51%, 337, 244, 317, 157, 34, 45, and 52. So I'm up really good on those calls. Those calls are all free money. I was able to generate those from what I'm doing on the board here. So I have all kinds of upside protection. If the stock goes, just crazy to the upside, I'm killing it over there. If the stock goes down, of course, those percentages will come down accordingly. Now, what I wanted to do today was I considered buying some puts for downside protection. And I usually do. I usually do a 1-to-3 or a 1-to-4 ratio. But I only had about $4,800 to work with, and that's not counting my call. I have a call out there. I could have bought that back and given me some more cash to work with. I'm selling cash secured puts, so I only had about $4,800 to work with. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And I debated several things. So I decided to do this. Remember, I have a sold to open covered call. That's for 19. I have the shares for that. If that gets taken away from me on the 31st, I'll pocket $332. If it doesn't get called, then I can sell more calls on that. If it's just a hair over 19, I'll probably buy it back and continue to sell calls on it. Okay, we'll handle that when it gets there. So I have that kind of as downside protection, but not much, because I can turn around and sell calls on it. At the time of this video, the stock price is roughly $18. I am personally expecting a 10% move up or down Monday. And so I'm like, okay, where does that put the stock price? That puts us at roughly $16.20 or $19.80. So I'm bullish on the stock. I think the stock is going to do well long term. And so I'm like, let's just risk it and let's sell the $20 puts. So I only had enough money to sell 2. I really wish I would have had enough money to sell 3. If I would have sold 3, I would have bought a call as downside protection, but I could only sell 2, so I'm just like, okay, let's roll with it. That pocketed me, well, that gave me $508, but I won't know how much of that I get to keep until I close out the trade. Now here, if you do the math on this, since I'm selling the 20, that basically, if I were to get assigned, that basically puts me buying the stock for $17.46. So worst case scenario, the stock goes to 0. That's always worst case scenario. You expected me to say something else, right? But as a bad scenario, the stock goes down and I buy shares for $17.46. That's not the end of the world. But I think what I'm expecting here is I'm expecting the market to react favorably to SoFi's earnings report. I think that will be a beat. I think we're probably in the 5 to 6 to 7 cent range. I do think that would be very positive for the stock. The problem here is, though, what everybody already knows. We've already had a very good run up from the $14 level. So even if we smash earnings, a pullback would not surprise me. But the market is getting very favorable due to Trump's policies. I do think that plays a role. I also think that's favorable for SoFi. So it's not hard to see a multiple expansion here. I'm not calling that yet, but you know, I'm just kind of walking you through my thought process. So bottom line, I decided to sell the 20s, and that give me, you know, a little over $500, and we'll see how much of that I get to keep next week. You need anything? No, oh, you're just leaving? Okay, be careful, love you. Did you make coffee?
Yeah, it's making.
All right, bye. Okay, that was my wife telling me she's leaving to go somewhere. And that's my thought process. So you guys, you know, now remember, these are my personal trades. I'm willing to take this risk. That's what I do. I don't have a problem with it. If you have questions, just reach out to me. But remember, any trades that you make, you are responsible for your trade. So we'll see how much of this I get to keep, if any. If the stock, what would happen here if the stock takes a big downturn? Okay, we're at 18. Let's say we go down 10%. That would put us roughly at the 1620 mark. I would think if that happens, I wouldn't take any action. I would think if that happens over the week, we slowly climb back up. The market always, I hate to say always, but almost always overreacts. It will overreact to the upside. It will overreact to the downside. So I think if it overreacts to the downside, we'll get that big sell-off Monday morning, and then the stock will slowly climb up during the day. So that might be a good time to buy some calls, which I rarely ever do. But anyway, I'm going to get this video posted for you guys if any of you want to do a similar trade. And hopefully I can get this up before the market closes today on Friday. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining in. And until next time.